Calgary's vibrancy, including the arts and culture sector, plays a central role in attracting talent, investment, and visitors, and is an economic driver, contributing over $3 billion annually to our economy. Yet many organizations face chronic underfunding and rising operating costs. If elected, how will you support Calgary's vibrancy, including arts and culture, and ensure Calgary continues to build a globally recognized creative economy that anchors our city's vibrancy long-term? Mr. Thiessen, we'll start with you this time.
Thank you, and I'll try to see your eye,
okay.
or your wave. Listen, as I met with arts and the creative industry around Calgary, they talked about how good we are at building really remarkable facilities like this, but how they really need stable, dependable funding for operational needs. The funding that keeps artists supported and allows companies to produce the shows that go into these centers. So I'm committed to providing stable, dependable operational funding, to increase funding to CADA, and providing grants to non-arts organizations to subsidize hiring musicians. I want to expand the Meanwhile Lease program that allows spaces that aren't used by landlords to be used by artists. And I want to work with C-Space to create new cultural hubs. And finally, as I met with artists this week, I was struck about what an impact supporting the creative economy would have. And I thought about how we have OSIF, a fund created to support tech companies that was created by CED and the City of Calgary to build up tech companies and fund them to establish them in our market. And it's been quite a success. I think we should create a similar fund for the creative arts to fund creative businesses as they start up so artists can earn a living while they're waiting for the next show to be on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Ms. Gondek.
It was a privilege in my last term on council to be the champion for the arts and to make sure that I was able to demonstrate to my colleagues why voting in favor of increased funding to the arts was good. And I built that argument in several ways. There was folks that already believed, and that was easy. And then I spoke to people and I said, early childhood development really hinges on exposure to the arts. Our kids need to be able to access these places and spaces to grow their minds. I talked about newcomer settlement and how much more successful it is when you have a strong arts and culture scene. And as a result, last term, we increased funding to the arts in a way that had never been seen before. And we continue to provide that increased funding now into this term. And it's important to make sure you're working with your colleagues to do the things that the city can, but it's also important to work with the business community. And I can tell you that Creative Calgary has said, we're looking for you as the mayor to be a champion for the return of corporate support for the arts as well. And I'm very happy to do that. I know we have a lot of philanthropists in this city. We are beneficiaries in this facility of so much philanthropic support. I think working with philanthropists to get the business community back involved in the arts is going to be key to the future. Another thing that has been pointed out to us is that logistics and safety around events and festivals is something that's gotten increasingly more expensive. So the arts community could really use a hand from the city on that. It's certainly something that I'm willing to look into. Venues, especially music venues. This is something that we need to be doing more of. We need to make sure that our bylaws are not so prohibitive that we can't have amazing arts and culture experiences in venues across the city. And I've been such a believer in the arts. I think you all know my investment is true and my support is real.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Mr. Farkas, how will you support vibrancy and ensure Calgary grows our world-renowned creative economy? 2 minutes.
Thank you. And as somebody who grew up in East Calgary and Fort Swan, I always felt that the arts was something that happened somewhere else to somebody else. Growing up as a kid, I could never have afforded to be in the seats right now to be able to see a show. And it was only as I grew older in life that I started to realize the value that it brought, not just in terms of bringing people together, but enabling us to have a shared story of the city, as well as to better embrace the individual dignity. But what I didn't realize was just that the arts meant business. So when you actually take a look at everything that's involved in putting on a stage play or production, there's a significant amount of talent and expertise behind that. My North Star in my campaign is preparing Calgary to be that city of 2 million people. At 2 million people, we cannot afford to be so focused on any one singular industry, and it's going to be the arts that is going to be able to help us rise to that challenge. So how do we execute? How do we pull it off? I very much support investment in the larger facilities, but I really think we got to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. The arts needs to be relevant in every community, in every single corner of the city. It can't be something that just happens in this space. It has to be venues like the National Access Arts Centre. It has to be the Evergreens. It has to be the Wildflowers, the Loose Mooses, the Burns Visual Arts Society. It has to be out in the community. And I think that's what I'm hoping to be able to bring as your next mayor. Somebody who can communicate the value, talk about it not just being a nice to have, but in a core essential service for us to be able to rise through the moment. Not just to be able to meet some of the challenges we have around the economy, but also safety and connection between each other.
Thank you. Mr. Davison, you're up to bat.
It's funny because everything Jeremy said, I remember him voting against when we were on council together, so that was interesting. Let's be clear. Flip-flop Farkas has a different plan, but I'll start with vibrancy and arts is the question. And the funny thing is you don't have vibrancy without the arts, and you are not a world-class city without the arts. And I remember being part of CADA's largest investment back when we were on city council, and it wasn't just because we argued placemaking. It wasn't because we just argued about the vibrancy creation. It's also a 7-to-1 economic return in our city, and we fail to remember that the arts contribute back to the economy of Calgary. And that's really, really important. And for me, having developed things like the Entertainment and Cultural District, really having a vision for Calgary about how we give more local artists ability and spaces to create and help Calgary thrive is incredibly important to me. The film industry I've been a part of the film industry for the better part of 15, 20 years now. And it was just an honor when I got on council to be able to say, look, we need investment in infrastructure. We need investment in incentive. We need to look at how we draw talent to Calgary. And that investment alone, when we asked council, I went to council and stood there and said, help me buy the film center. I promise you we can get back to being Hollywood North. I promise you we can create an industry. The one outstanding vote on that was Jeremy voted against it. And that vote against it, had we have not done it, would never have happened where we had the largest television production in history right here in Calgary. So vibrancy is absolutely key. Building into the arts is key. Supporting local is key. I want to be a world-class city, and that means we make an investment in the arts, period, full stop.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Ms. Sharp,
Thank
you're
you.
up.
Well, a thriving art community brings so much investment into our city. And, when I opened, I talked a lot about public safety and what it means for people to come down to these venues. And you think about an artist that is walking the streets of Calgary with, an instrument, or they're trying to get to work, they're trying to start their career. If we don't have a safe city on our streets, everyone suffers. And so we need to make sure that the whole city and the things we put forward work for everybody. And there's really important things when we talk about the venues we're building. They're all downtown. And we need to make sure people are getting here safely. And we talk a lot about art. And when I was in administration, I worked on Film Friendly. And so what Mr. Davison is saying about bringing film here, it was my small, mighty team, business and local economy team, and shout out to the group that's doing it now, that removed the barriers for these groups to come here. We were the ones that made sure roads and all of these places were working together to get the permits they needed to film the films that are coming to Calgary. Now, what people don't realize is how much art actually supports our local businesses. How many local businesses do you go to and you see art on the wall or music playing and they're local artists? So art in the city is just being part of our city. It shouldn't be and or. It needs to be yes. And that's what's important, but when we're looking at budget, it shouldn't be an item that you don't support. And I know ex-Councillor Farkas didn't support the art. So again, I'm going to go back to what is he actually saying now after 4 years, because he didn't support anything, and now it's all about the art. I would say that one thing that I was really proud of is getting Contemporary Calgary at the table this last budget. They were kind of left to the sideline and not supported. So I was part of the motion to make sure they got the funding, and they're going to be a partner at the table moving forward. And art should never be an option. It's a yes.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the opening remarks for this second question. And now we'll move into the response and rebuttal in the same order. You have a minute to respond. I will raise my hand with 15 seconds. And Mr. Thiessen, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. You know, I'm all about personal growth, and I admire Mr. Farkas's journey. But I will say this, that Mr. Davison only covered part of his record. He voted against the major funding strategy for institutions like this one. He voted against Arts Commons. In 2020, he brought a motion for a $5 million cut to CADA. That would have been 44% of CADA's budget. So I just want to say it's great that you've discovered the arts, but you need to back that with real action, like we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta say, I love this.
Sorry, were you waving again?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, good.
You came in under budget.
Okay,
it's
good.
It's all good. Ms. Gonda.
As I will.
You know, one of the things about creating vibrancy is that it takes investment. And if you think about our culture and entertainment district, one of the things that we invested in is an arena. And while Mr. Farkas is saying it was a bad idea, did you know that it attracted 3 hotel deals, Marriott hotel deals? That's how you create a strong tax base. Do you want to talk about walking and chewing gum? Think about the fact that the investments that you make in this city generate more private sector investment. That's exactly how we grew the Rivers District. And that's the kind of investment you were too afraid to make back then, and you're still criticizing us for making an investment now. You're fearful of making investment, and you don't understand how things work when it comes to creating vibrancy.
Okay, Mr. Farkas.
I got 1 minute.
You got a minute.
I think leadership means being willing to show up on a stage like this and admit that you're wrong, right? I've made mistakes and I've learned. I think it means having the courage to say that you're wrong, that you've learned, right? It doesn't make you a flip-flopper, it just means you have a working brain. So I showed my commitment to the arts by having the courage to be releasing our arts policy as the very first thing immediately after launching my candidacy. I had the courage to lean in terms of specific actionable investments, ways that it can be not just Arts Commons. Like for me, growing up as a kid in East Calgary, this wasn't the arts. I never knew anybody who had a piano in their house, but I want kids out there, no matter which corner of the city you're from, to have the ability to have great experiences like this. So again, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to admit my mistakes and admit when I'm wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Farkas. Mr. Davison, you have a minute.
You know, I actually just want to address something Sonia said, and I actually want to say thank you to administration, because often as City Council, we come up with ideas, but it's actually the people behind the scenes that deserve the credit to getting those things done. So largely in part leading the idea of where our film industry went, a lot of that is supported by the tens of thousands of people that work at the City of Calgary each and every day that just want to make life better for all of us. So thank you to them for doing their job. Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Sharp.
I'm going to address something actually from the last question about fiscal restraint, if that's okay. When the $28 million gap came that Mr. Thiessen was talking about, that didn't add anybody's taxes. That came from a reserve, so unfortunately that was incorrect. And the police officers, the budget, it's unfortunate because Mr. Thiessen was asked to retire from the police commission because 2,300 members didn't want him there, but we won't talk about that. But what I'll say is, if anybody wants to look at fiscal restraint, why don't we look at our disclosure statements? Some people sitting up here are in a deficit. Some of us are not. Some members of actually, or opponents of mine, have spent more money than I've even raised. So when we talk about fiscal restraint, all you got to do is look at my history. So Mr. Thiessen, I'm sorry, but you were wrong about the $28 million, and you're wrong about the police funding, because we can find the $75 million in corporation to pay for those officers, and that's why it was supported. So please be careful.
What's next? Check my phone and I will tell you. That concludes our second question, and we'll move on to our third question.